live. So here we are with the fabulous and amazing Maeve Höglund. We are not sure if you can hear us. Ironically, we've been struggling with sound for about 30 minutes, but the show must go on. And Maeve is an amazing opera singer. So we were putting the show on. We're hoping desperately that you can actually hear us. So we do see your chats. So if you would love to chat us up and let us know that you can hear us, that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. I am more than, so let's wait a little minute and see if folks can join us. And I'm going to,
no.
Maybe you can hear me, right? You can hear me? Hit audio, hit audio memo. So at least we'll have like an audio recording because you're getting both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hit audio on your iPhone. Okay. And just record. Yeah. So at least we'll have an audio recording. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear us. Here we are. My name is Sara. You all know me. And I am the founder of Sarah Christine's It Girls. And this is Feminine Empire Building. And the goal of this interview series is to talk to like amazing women peer to peer. So this isn't about calling in experts from outside, but just peer to peer in the community, talking with women who are building their incredible feminine empire. And by feminine empire, we mean having it all. Having it all. We have not given up on the dream of having it all. We want empires, we want babies, we want amazing lovers, maybe many of them, maybe one of them. We want fabulous shoes, we want money, we want influence, we want to do philanthropic work, we want it all. So creating a better world as It Girls and having some fun while we're doing it. That's really the goal of this, right? So we've like come out of this model of generations of feminism where it's been quite grim. We've had to fight for our rights and things have been very grim, and we're changing the paradigm because building a feminine empire can be so much fun. And so I'm so excited to talk with Maeve Höglund. She is such a special, incredible It Girl, absolutely gorgeous, building an amazing feminine empire, world at her fingertips. Let me just tell you a little bit about who Maeve is. So Maeve is an internationally acclaimed opera singer and vocal soul coach with her company, Divine Voice Transformation. She's been hailed by the New York Times as having a wealth of dynamic control and formidable florid technique. I don't know what florid technique is, but we're going to get into that, hopefully. And she also has been called by the New York Times a striking superstar. She's been featured in countless publications, such as Opera News, DC Metro, Philadelphia Magazine, and Portland Press Herald, to name a few. Her work spans from main stage opera to recitals, orchestral performances, touring with jazz at Lincoln Center, performing off-Broadway, and running sound healing sessions. She's also a recording artist, and she's 3 albums where she's the featured soloist, one of which is about to release on April 24th with Tzadik Records. Maeve performs both regionally all over the US as well as Europe. Her clientele range from artistic influencers to high-end entrepreneurs who aren't used to the spotlight, and she connects their abilities to leverage their superpower, the voice. Beautiful. She travels the world living a location-free lifestyle. Currently joining us, are you in London?
Philadelphia.
Okay. Not getting any sound, but that's okay.
Philly, my home.
Oh, you're in Philly. Mm-hmm. Oh, fabulous. Joining us from Philadelphia. And she is in the process of building out her next dream project to empower women who lack the means to voice their gifts. She's a graduate of Manhattan School of Music in New York City. She's conversational in Italian, French, and Spanish. When Maeve's not traipsing from country to country or working with clients, she can be found riding horses, connecting with nature, or volunteering her gifts to those in need. And I'm going to put all of our social links in the comments and so that everyone can connect with Maeve. All right, Maeve. So I'm so happy that you're here. I'm looking to see if anyone is joining us. If you are, please say hello so that we know that you are here. And like I said, unfortunately, I'm having some audio issues, meaning that I can't hear Maeve's responses, which is really ironic considering that we're talking about voice. but we're doing the live anyway.
Whatever.
So this is going to be a really interesting project. And like I said, building your feminine empire is a lot of fun. So Maeve, I am curious. Let's just like get started. How did you come to decide to even do this? Why build a feminine empire? What was your decision-making process like?
So you can't hear me. This is a little strange, but we'll just keep going. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here, Christine. I'm so honored to be a part of your tribe and to come in to speak with your amazing ladies in the group, or gents. And one of the reasons why I decided to really step into building my massive empire is because I believed in humans being able to fully express themselves in a life of creation. And really the only way in which we can do that is to just go out and be bold and really allow for us to step into our highest frequency of calling, which is to create and to build and to imagine. And so, you know, my motto is just life is our sandbox, so why not build castles? And for me, building off of my upper, my upper career and performance vein of work, I realized that it's just so important to give back and to be able to bring the audience in with you as opposed to it only being a one-time experience. So that is how I've really like launched myself into helping others outside of my operatic field, but in addition to also open veins of philanthropic work to empower people who perhaps don't have the resources or services to really be able to bring their gifts and their voice and, you know, their creativity to the world. So for me, it's really about what we can give back, how we can empower the whole as a community on a global level. And obviously that's pretty pertinent right now. So that is why I decided to step into building my empire.
By the way, I can hear you now.
Great. Amazing. Oh my God. Great. Yeah. So I think you heard some of that then.
Love that divine voice transformation touch that you have. So
yeah.
Tell us about being an opera singer. Where did that come from? Did you always want to be an opera singer? Was that a dream you had from a little girl? Like, did you wake up in the middle of the night and just decide? Like, what happened? And also, this is a very competitive career. I mean, this is to get to where you are so young, like just absolutely amazing. How did that all happen?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So one of the things that I actually translate to any conversation that I'm in, whether it's with a friend or a family member or a client or an audience member, patron, somebody that has just met me or has perhaps heard me sing, I always go back to I always had this, what I call divine voice. It was like that inner compass, that inner calling, that inner whisper in my soul that was always talking about how I could create, express, perform, imagine, play. And that was always something that was super, super present with me ever since I was young. So be it me, you know, creating like an entire play of something in the playground, or, you know, playing with my imaginary friends in the forest, or, you know, training in dance and piano and eventually voice. These were all areas in which I was feeling the pull and draw to be expressed and to be creative and to play. And that was something that I always really was super in tune with. And I always let guide myself. And so when I'm in conversation with people that kind of are curious, they're like, how did that happen? It's something that I actually am able to guide people around now, because it's actually something that has been my compass all my life. So it's basically just like, if you're, you know, listening to a language that you're learning, it's like you pick up the pieces of that linguistic language and then you become to speak it. So I always like to compare learning a language, the same as how I have become the singer that I am today. And so I've just built on that. I've just built like one direction after another. I've always been guided to go, go this way, go that way. And it's led me down a really amazing path, one that's also been full of a lot of struggle and a lot of challenge through various things from my childhood that I've had to recover from, in addition to, certain traumas that I've had to go into deep healing around. And so that's all been a part of my kind of like expansion and what I like to call like the full winged spread, because I've got for those of you, I've got my angel wings on my back.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So it's like really stepping into that full spread, expansive part of who I am, which goes out into any performance that I do, any encounter that I have on the stage or otherwise. And that has just, for me, brought me so many gifts, has brought me so many different places around the world, and has enabled me to really touch thousands. So I really feel fortunate.
I absolutely love the sense of magic and joy and play. And one of the things I've admired about you for some time is that the way that you are in the world and how you interact with people is so just, it is a sense of play. You make everything feel so fun. But I've known you for a little while, and you are an incredibly disciplined artist. You're an incredibly disciplined person. I mean, you definitely have, given me the swift boot in the bottom a couple of times. My own feminine empire building, and I needed it, and it was so incredible for me. So how do you balance that? Because to talk to you, to listen to you, even just to know you, I don't think anyone would suspect how deep you go into creating habits, your discipline. You are an unbelievably, rigorous, technically rigorous human. And I just really admire about that. Can you talk about that balance a little bit?
Yeah, totally. Well, I love you, and it's just amazing to have you as a friend and a co-sister in the empire of our different creative outfits. And I think the one thing that stands at the center of a lot of one's inner day discipline is knowing what you're creating, knowing where you're going. So having a sense of, I want to achieve that particular accomplishment, or I would like to become that kind of like that blooming flower. There's so many analogies in nature. I really love to I'll talk a lot about nature. I have all my fairy folk. Maeve, if you actually look at the definition of Maeve, she's like the queen of the fairies and the magic people. So I'm always kind of referencing nature and magical things, because so much of those tales and those examples in nature bring an analogy for us in our lives, right, on a daily basis. And so I think one of the areas in which I've been able to step into like deep, as you say, like deep discipline, a rigorous routine of what I would consider kind of like mental workout constantly every day, is knowing what outcome I want, like what outcome I'm desiring. And so many people, I find, they don't necessarily know that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that they don't. They're just not clear on the vision about what they're creating. So throughout my life, I'm an athlete. I played volleyball and baseball, and I was a dancer. I was a pianist as well. In all these disciplines, I always had, and I'm not even quite sure when to use goals as the word anymore. I just had these like points that I like, almost like, if we think of it as a mountain, okay, so here I go back to nature analogies. I had these different elevations that I was looking to rise up on. And so I knew, okay, I want to go to that next level. What is it going to be required to allow me to get there? And of course, most importantly, I had mentors, I had coaches, I had people coaching me on the court. I had my piano teacher at my lessons. I had my vocal teacher as well. I had people who were rooting me on, that were helping me be more disciplined in the mind game. And so when I was able to establish, oh yeah, I want to make varsity on that volleyball team, or oh yeah, I want to be able to play that sonata, or, oh yeah, I want to be able to get into that conservatory. And then moving on forward and forward, like, oh, I want to sing in the stages of the world. I want to sing in the Metropolitan Opera. I want to have a feminine empire. I want to have a thriving relationship. I want to be able to travel the world without being location free. These are tangible things that I knew I wanted and I was working toward. And then I knew, okay, for me to be able to get there, and that's the vision, then what do I need to do to shape myself at that place backwards? Because every time we stretch, every time we're going to go to a new summit in our life, it requires more discipline. It requires more, dedication and commitment to get to that point. And what happens most of the time, not most of the time, what happens is we hit new mental blocks. We hit new mental obstacles that perhaps have been coming from, places where we didn't feel so confident or we didn't feel so secure about ourselves. And so we had doubts and fears and worries and old hurts and a variety of things that were holding us back. And it's in the daily process of being able to face those things and allow yourself to keep going. That to me is the core of what enables somebody to build such a system of discipline and commitment and, utter, kind of unshakable and unbreakable routine. And there's another word I'm thinking of, and it'll come out. But this allows then for people to actually be transformed in the process, as opposed to getting those one things. And I think that's what's really helpful for people to see when they see, wow, oh my gosh, you have this. It's like, absolutely. And there are ways in which you can get there that are broken down. And let's, in a way, break down the cubes of the castle. Like I said, I don't know if you heard my quote, Christine, but I said, life's a sandbox, let's make castles. Right? So if we know each part of the castle that we need to build, like first is the foundation, et cetera, then we know the aspects, the parts that we need to go on. And of course, that comes with a whole other element of what's needed also in the combination of baking that cake, so to speak, the ingredients that you need support. You need, spiritual grounding. You need connection to, and these are from my point of view, you need connection with the earth, right? Connection with the planetary vibrations and grounding that you're in. You need to understand that what you're doing is actually serving a bigger purpose. It's not just about oneself. So that's a big gulp to your question, but that kind of, I think, really summarizes.
What I love about what you said is how unique it is to you, how special it is to you. And I love that you talked about the foundation, because I'm also a big believer in foundations being really critical to success. And then when you talked about the foundation, I was like, wow, it's so interesting, because I have different bricks that I lay for my foundation. And it led me to think, I wonder if everyone, when we're creating our feminine empires, it's something that's so authentic to who we are and our soul. And I know you're very soul-based. I wonder if everyone has different criteria for their foundation, right? Like in some ways, this is why it's like there are building blocks, and it's so important to have coaches and mentors. And at the exact same time, it's got to come from you and your soul, right? Because as I was listening to your foundation, I know you're from Washington State, you were raised in a place where nature was really important. I heard you say, oh, nature is really important. And it's for me, I love nature. Don't get me wrong. I live in Los Angeles. I get to go to the ocean. But for me, one of my foundations is financial tools, right? I believe money is a spiritual issue. If my money isn't right, my foundation is shaky. And I also believe in time, right? I'm a big time person. So one of my weaknesses, believe it or not, is procrastination, right? So it's you wouldn't know it to look at me, but it's because I've done so much work on my own procrastination. And part of that is time tracking. I track my time. I know where every minute is going. I make sure I'm not time debting. My time has to line up to my vision. And in fact, I had to call myself out on it recently, because part of my feminine empire is art making. And I looked at my time over the week, and it was I've spent 3 hours on art making and 30 hours on marketing and sales. So actually, while my head is saying, oh, we're in coronavirus, you better market and sell right now, like that's the most important thing. To truly have a strong foundation, I need to make sure that I'm allocating art making time, sales time, client time. Like these things actually need to be equal, right? Like I need to be giving equal time to dating, partnership, art as I am to all of these other things. So, that was just to say, like, I really love that part of your foundation is, backwards goal planning, nature. What else is in your foundation? What else is like without this, Maeve starts getting shaky or doubts or fear.
Yeah, what I love that you touched upon is that everybody's structure is different. Absolutely. Just like we're different people and we have different DNA and we are built differently. We have different backgrounds, different influences. I feel very much the same about what each person needs. And this is actually, to me, definitively what divine voice means. If anyone is interested about, learning what that actually means, it's truly your individual compass, and we're all born with it, and we all have our own imprint and makeup, so to speak, about what that is supposed to then turn out to create whatever life that we're desiring, right? And so for me, when I speak about my experience, it truly is what has worked for me. And each person then in turn creates their own, right? Each person is different. However, what I will say is common for everyone, and there's no exception, is the inner game, the inner voice game. And to me, that is at the crux of what has brought me the life that I lead today, what has brought me the results, has brought me the gifts, has brought me the blessings and opportunities that I've experienced overall, 1,000%, from experiences to opportunities to career advancement to the abundance of money of experience to, living a location-free lifestyle, is the way in which I am in relationship with my mind and how I systematically put it in check. So a lot of the time when I'm working with people, I don't teach too many. I have a very select few people, actually a very select few clients too as well that I have. I don't take more than a certain number because it's really important that our journey together is one that's very specific and strategized, like we've talking about, in terms of really building up this castle that doesn't happen in 30 days, right? As you know. And so what to me is essential is beginning to see where it's almost like a video game. I don't play video games, but I definitely live in the fantasy world with nature and mystical things. But it is very much like a quest. We are on a quest in life. And so if we are, again, clear about, well, where is not necessarily the destination, but what is it that we're actually looking to experience, then we get to see what things are in the way. And to me, we all live with our mind. We all live with our thoughts. We all live with our judgments. We all live with our criticisms, but we also live with our excitement, with our celebration, with our creativity, with our desire to play. And so to me, truly, I feel like every human being, their desire, their true bottom desire is to just be fully expressed, just to be living out truly their divine inner voice calling. And so with that, we have to break down what is going on from a day-to-day basis that is interrupting that channel. So for me, one of the things that is absolutely non-negotiable, a few things that I use to protect myself with that is, I know I can get sucked into social media. I know this is very much a common theme for a lot of people probably right now, but in general, is the kind of distraction of having something that's external that is not internal. And that is projecting a lot of different ideas and concepts and, business ideas, or, you're getting a lot of impressions about what other people are doing or what other people are creating, which is, to me, can be a funnel to you going into self-deprecation, to you being in self-doubt, to having that mind cycle really go in a cycle of beat up. And so for me, what's the number one protection is I only give myself a certain amount of time to engage with that type of platform, or to be on it and engaging it in a way. If I'm comparing or despairing, I cut it off. It's like, oh, right, that's no longer a priority for my day right now, because that's not the type of conversation I'm looking to be in. So identifying what the mind traps are, right, to me, is self-comparison. If we're always in self-comparison, then we're always going to be in our inner despairing, right? So if we're always looking at what everyone else is doing, what everyone else is seeking, what everyone else is, creating as opposed to us, then we are actually not able to be in our own creative and, innovative vein. So that's number one. Number two is, how can we hear the messages of what we're supposed to be doing if we're not still? So one thing that I definitely implement.
Oh, I feel that. Oh, I love it. Okay. Sorry. I just had to interrupt because I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah. One of the big things is stillness. And I have this very much, this skill set very much embedded into my personality because of singing. Because when I sing, and I'd be happy to send some clips too with the group, Christine, for people can actually see me sing. You'll see how there's an inner stillness in me that has to be there, because my instrument is so powerfully moving air and energy that I can't be going like all around like this. And it's very much an analogy of how our mind works. If we're constantly like going crazy and nuts, we don't have the opportunity to cut really really streamlined and very laser focused about what it is that we're needing to do next. And so in that stillness, we can then receive certain messages that are saying, oh yeah, this is another idea that we can do. Oh yeah, let me invigorate, that conversation. Or, oh yeah, I got to connect with that person. Oh my gosh, I think they could really, connect around this topic. Or, it's not even necessarily that they could use what we have, but it's more along the lines of play, right? Of creation, of building, of innovation, of, really growing something creatively and playing with it. And thirdly, of course, being a singer, what's most important is, to me, engaging with my sound, engaging with my voice, which to many people is about body. It's about body work, body awareness. Also just connecting with what is our voice actually saying about us. So how is it that we resonate inside our bodies, and how is that coming across in our communication? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, funny enough, don't think how that actually is relative to what's going on inside. But actually, if you think about it, sometimes we hear people and we could listen to them for hours. I know I can. There's certain people I listen to and I have their podcast on running constantly. And I'm just I could just listen to you for hours, because whatever you're saying, it's not necessarily what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. And to me, that is really indicative of the two things that I already mentioned, which is really being mindful of the mind traps, whether it's, protecting your peace in a way of, stepping away from comparison, in addition to staying still and quiet in order to hear what you need to do next, or what information is being sent to you, to then being able to really connect with, awesome, how is that then relative to how I am being present and, powerful in what I am giving the world, and how I am conveying that. And to me, that is just a cycle that I just spin around on a regular basis, to me, which keeps me grounded, it keeps me humble, and it keeps me in a position where I'm really only looking to come from the highest integrity and, the most pure frequency.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Part of the mission of this interview series is to bring out the hidden skills that I don't believe we're taught in school to build our feminine empires, and especially not as women, right? So one of the concepts that I dug into when I was doing my PhD in the social sciences, this actually comes from sociology, but it's this idea of social capital, that it's through relationship that people learn what they need in order to be successful. And traditionally, men just have more social capital. They're taught different kinds of skills just kind of around the world, or not around the world, but just around their lives as they're growing up. They're just sort of told, this is how you handle this and this is how you handle this. And traditionally women aren't. And so there are just disruptions in our social capital. And so there's a lot of inner, self-teaching that we have to do to gain skill sets to actually get what we want. And I don't just mean through work. I mean, I've had to completely reteach myself how to relate in relationship, right? I've had to completely reteach myself many things about my health. I mean, I think a lot of us have to teach ourselves about our health because the nutrition guidelines have changed so much. Mm-hmm. So I always ask each one of my guests to share, what is that like one skill, that hidden skill that you've really had to use to build your feminine empire? And I'm wondering if you can share it with us almost as if like we were your third grade class. Like, what would you call this skill?
Ooh. The first thing that comes through is Maeve's magical mojo. Like finding out what your magical mojo is.
I love that you just trademarked it also. Maeve's magical mojo. Yeah, I love it.
I think it's actually on my website somewhere, but
what is the skill of magical mojo though? Like how, like as a third grader, like how would I, it sounds like you know this skill, but like how would I learn that skill? What is it?
Yeah, so a magical mojo is, to me, let's take ourselves on a playground. So we're all on a playground and we all have certain strengths. Your strength might be to tell everybody the rules of the game. Another person's strength might be to actually be a fairly strong player on the team. Another person's strength might be to lead an adventure in the forest. Another person's strength might be to actually just support the person who's leading the experience on the forest. Some might just be to observe and write about it later on. Another strength might be to...
That's nice. That's what I do on the team. I observe and write. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, like the other could be like to do dress up and like how do you like?
I want that one too, though.
You want that one too?
Yeah, I want the dress up one too.
So think about when you're playing, what strengths do you have on the playground? And it can be it doesn't have to be just a like school playground, but it can also be like your home playground or your home playground in your house or your home playground when you're playing with your friends. What is your strength, right? When you're in a dynamic with your tribe, with your people, what do you feel is your strength? Sometimes people's strength is listening and other people's strength is just gabbing out like particular pieces of wisdom. Another might be observing and writing about it later. I think in order to identify your magical mojo is understanding that everyone's contributing something and none are better or less than the other, but just understanding that your magical mojo is needed in the fabric of community and in any group collective, and being able to identify what that is so important to, your greatest expression. And so to figure out, what that might be, I really encourage people to write. Writing is another way, a form of figuring out your voice and figuring out, who am I? What kind of conversation do I have on a regular basis that people perhaps don't really know about? And so it's having that actual inner dialogue with yourself that enables you to identify what that special mojo is. And, for me, again, if I was presenting to a third grade class, I'd probably be asking certain questions about like, what is your favorite game? What is your, if you could have like any, magical setting to create something, what would it be? So really kind of like tapping in, I think, to people's inner desires. And I think even third graders really know that. They're actually, I'm just thinking about like, I love that age. It's like,
it's such a good age. Yeah, I know. I often said to myself at the beginning when I switched out of my previous career as an anthropologist and researcher and came into fashion, I would say to myself, if this doesn't work, I'm going to go teach third grade because I'm obsessed with them. It was equally sort of like desirous. I absolutely love this skill of Maeve's magical mojo. And what I'm hearing embedded in it, and I'm just going to verify with you, is that it's not just having this. So Maeve's the skill of magical mojo isn't just knowing that you have the skill. It's actually the work of identifying it within yourself and knowing that it's valued within the fabric of community and participation. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, beautiful. So then my follow-up question to that is, as one's building a feminine empire, like, so in other words, like if I was thinking like, oh, I have to identify my magical mojo, like I think my like limited thought would be I do it once and then I build my empire and then I'm done. But I have a sense that you would say, no, you're constantly in the work of identifying your magical mojo. Like that's my sense. So can you help us understand that a little bit? Like, let's say I'm already 10 years into my feminine empire. Like, why would I need to identify my magical mojo again? Has it changed? Like, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think as sentient beings, right? We're like constantly, we have different sensories that we are inputting certain information and experiences in. And that is constantly changing. I live really by the principle of feelings are not facts. They're just passing moments. And so in that sense, we are constantly being influenced and impacted by our experience, by our circumstances, and by our relationships, unless we're a monk, which I'm not. So,
and even they have other monks, no? So yeah, right? They have other monks, I think, or like butterflies maybe around them, or like okay, wherever monks live, right?
Yeah, and so we're constantly shaping and shifting, and to me, really like moving into a different into different modalities as those things change. I mean, certainly as it's related to right now, many people are being forced to look at other options outside of their main vocation. Mm-hmm. So as you can tell, like, outer experiences and circumstances will change the conversation. It will change. Oh, wow, what's my mojo now? Or what's my magical? Because there are different varieties of the facets of our human selves, which can be expressed. I really, truly believe there isn't just one. And that's why some people who say they've lived 1,000 lives in one lifetime, to me, is about like that they're just continuing to mold and shape and shift and create new things, again, being a part on this playful platform that we have as life. Right. So for me, if it's really, to me, what the bottom layer has to be is it has to be joy. For me personally, and I say this to all my clients, if you're not in your joy, why are you doing it? I don't do anything that's not in my joy. It doesn't make any sense. I've done plenty of work that was not in my joy and it almost killed me. So I'm just really not accepting any more in my life, nothing that doesn't have joy in it. And that doesn't mean I don't have instances that challenge me, that challenge me around that, right? Human beings are a wonderful way to challenge whether or not you're in your joy or not. And you know what? There's lessons in all of that. And so for me, again, even when you're building an empire, it shifts. My business has completely changed since I started. I had one kind of funnel way in who I was serving, and particularly also in my career. So the both are two very much intertwined. It was before
empire, right? So our empire is our career, our business, our love life, our parenting, our vacation, our whole like empire. Like this isn't just about this series is not just about business.
Rooms in this money.
This isn't about entrepreneurship. Like this series, Feminine Empire Building, what I mean is, how are you building yourself to be a human? How are you building yourself to be a human who lives authentically? And I love what you're saying, joyfully in this world. So like, it's like, I want to dispel any myths right now. If anyone's watching, this entire thing, being an it girl, this is not about your business, right? Like business is a part, but it's not about your business, right? It's about who we are. And out of that, whoosh, like what can be possible? Yeah. Which is why I wanted you specifically to be on the series and on the series really early on, because to me, you're such an amazing example of someone who is so connected to your voice, your truth, I love how you say it, magical mojo. And it comes out in everything you do. I mean, not just your opera singing, not just your career as a coach, but like your friendships, right? We've known each other for some time. Like to me, it's like when I see you from the outside, it's like who you are as a performer and who you are as a friend. It's what's the word? It's got integrity. It's got you have integrity. You are like I love that expression. The way we do one thing is how we do everything, right? Like that to me, like sums up who you are. Like you, Maeve, like you do everything with the same, just, oh, sorry, I'm getting a little flash there, with the same, just like beautiful sense of play and like truth to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's, to that end, it's so important for anyone watching and for anyone who's, a part of this tribe that Sarah's created, is to understand that, we're here to inspire others, right? We're here to really live as an example and a testament that in order to have, a fully expressed life, it does require for us to be our fully expressed self.
That's right.
And that we can have so many different variations and varieties and a palette to pull from, through which we can express those things. And it's not just one vein. And you too, Sarah, I mean, have like had amazing expansion in your own creativity, not only as your own empire builder, but as a fashionista and an artist and a creative. And you're constantly rebirthing ways in which to express who you are. And to me, that is at the core of how we get to be in joyful play every day. And, the obstacles really are indicative of how we can weather them based on the foundation we've built. And so much of that, I think, a lot of people miss. And so I do emphasize that in all the things I do, whether I am performing on stage with my colleagues and who come and talk to me. I've had so many people come and people running companies come and ask me for advice, which I'm so honored to have, but it's amazing how this thing can be missed.
Yes.
It's like, how are you at the central focal point of your daily disciplines and awareness of what you are working towards, but in terms of staying on the course, right? And staying on, like we have to take care of babies, like babies, there's no choice about that. It is something that has to be done. If you're caring for an animal, I ride horses and like, you can't just like not show up one day. Like they need to be fed, they need to be ridden, they need to be cared for. So the same thing goes for your own internal journey, your own internal process, and your own internal building of what you are creating.
I love that. Oh, it was so beautiful. I want to thank you so much for being here and being our second guest on this series. And it's just been such a pleasure. So I want to just wrap up with a really fun question that I'm going to be asking all of my guests. And that is, who's your favorite designer right now? What are you in love with in fashion?
Yeah, it's such a hard question because I have so many, but I will say just right now for me, and possibly as you can tell from my choice of garb, that I'm super colorful. I love color. I definitely am into things that are just like saying so much about the expressiveness of oneself. And I am quite obsessed. I wouldn't say obsessed, but I am a big fan of Lady Gaga. And one of her main designers is Brandon Maxwell, who is just, to me, every time he's a millennial, I think he's millennial. He's like, or maybe a little bit older than a millennial, but like basically everything he creates is all about the extension of the person he's creating it for, with lots of colors and shapes and angles and variety of different messaging in the shapes and cuts that he creates. And to me, everything I've seen of his, I'm just in love with. I can't wait to have one of his gowns on me. And since I'm an opera singer, I'm all about the gowns. So I would say he's at the top of my list right now.
Well, I love that so much. That's actually an introduction for me. I'm in love with Lady Gaga's style, so I'm immediately going to go and look him up. And look, by the way, incredible. I love the dress. I love the earrings. I love your hair is perfect. Everything about you is gorgeous. You look amazing. Thank you so much for being with us. Is there anything you want to leave us with, or any final thing that you didn't get to say that you want to say?
Well, I love you. Thank you so much for having me on. And for those of you watching, for those of you watching, I just am so excited that you are able to have access to such an amazing human being and this platform. And truly, I would say is, do your best to not only utilize the resources that you have in front of you, but also utilize the resources that are inside you. You can never go wrong with your inner compass and your inner voice that's looking to come through. And if that's something that is being clouded or interrupted or, outspoken by other things, just slowly and surely try to remove piece by piece things that are, interrupting that signal so you can really start to tune in, because to me, that's going to be your saving grace, your compass on your ship, and your guide in most things.
Amazing. And how can we get in touch with you if we want to get to know you, work with you, find out more about where you're singing, come to your performances? How can we?
Yes. I will certainly put my websites down, which my soprano website is maevehöglund.com. And my coaching website is divinevoicetransformation.com. You're welcome to check that out and peruse it and see all my offerings. For anyone who comes in the door and is actually interested in working with me, I do a 30-minute session evaluation to see how I might support you best. So that's certainly offered to your group, Christine, and your members. So I can drop that link too. So if they are interested, they can set that up with me.
All right. Love you so much. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Bye.
Amazing. I think, are we not streaming anymore? I think we're not streaming.
I don't know. It says in the stream.
Are we? All right. Well, I think I stopped the stream and I'm going to, what if I just log out there?
Okay.
Okay.
But we can still talk, which is amazing.